Good evening. Tonight, we are traveling to a place where time moves at a completely different speed than the rest of the world. We are going to the Far East, to a quiet, sun-drenched courtyard tucked away behind high stone walls. We are not here to witness a battle, or a royal coronation, or a bustling market. We are here to watch a dark, salty liquid turn into liquid gold. We are here to witness the slow, silent, and incredibly boring history of soy sauce fermentation. It is a process that refuses to be rushed. It is a process that relies on the invisible, the microscopic, and the endless patience of the seasons. It is a story told in drops, not shouts. So, before we step through the wooden gate, take a moment to find a comfortable position. Adjust your pillows. Let your shoulders drop away from your ears. If you enjoy these slow, savory journeys into the past, please like the video and subscribe. And do let me know in the comments where you are drifting off from tonight. I love to think of this community as a quiet network of listeners, all slowing down together. Now, take a deep breath. Can you smell the faint scent of cedar and salt in the air? Let's begin. You are walking down a narrow, dusty path on the outskirts of a village. The noise of the day, the shouting of merchants, the barking of dogs, the clatter of carts, is fading behind you. The further you walk, the quieter it gets. The path is lined with tall bamboo, their green stalks creaking gently in the breeze. It is a hypnotic, rhythmic sound that filters out the chaos of the world. You come to a stop in front of a heavy wooden gate. It is old, the timber weathered to a silvery gray by decades of sun and rain. Above the gate hangs a noren, a split fabric curtain, dyed a deep indigo blue. It flutters lazily. You push the curtain aside and step through. The transition is instant. The air inside the courtyard feels different. It is still. It is heavy. It feels held. You are standing in a vast open yard. The ground is packed earth, swept clean of leaves and debris, hard and dry under your boots. But you don't look at the ground. You look at what fills the space. Jars. Hundreds and hundreds of jars. They are standing in perfect rows, like a silent army of monks in meditation. They are large, bulbous earthenware vessels, reaching perhaps to your waist or chest. They are glazed in deep, rich shades of brown, chestnut, mahogany, coffee, and dark amber. They gleam dully in the afternoon sun. There is no machinery here. There are no conveyor belts, no humming motors, no flashing lights. There is only the clay, the sun, and the silence. A mainstream historical fact to orient you in this landscape: fermentation is often called cooking without fire. For thousands of years, before the invention of refrigeration, humanity was in a constant race against rot. In East Asia, the solution was salt and mold. By harnessing the power of specific microbes, ancient brewers discovered they could not only preserve perishable beans and grains, but transform them into something entirely new. Something rich, savory, and complex. This yard isn't just a factory. It is a slow-motion preservation chamber, keeping hunger at bay through the magic of chemistry. You begin to walk down one of the long aisles between the rows of jars. The spacing is precise. There is just enough room for a person to walk, to check, to listen. You reach out and touch one of the jars. The surface is warm. The dark glaze has absorbed the heat of the sun all day, and now it radiates that warmth back into your palm. It feels like a living thing. The texture is not perfectly smooth like glass. It has a subtle organic roughness. You can feel the fingerprints of the potter who made it, the slight ridges where the clay was coiled and smoothed. These jars are not mere containers. In the world of traditional fermentation, the vessel is an ingredient. You lean in closer. You can hear a sound. It is very faint. You have to hold your breath to hear it. Bloop-dot-dee. And then, a long silence. Flip. Tut. It is the sound of the mash inside the jars breathing. It is the sound of tiny bubbles of carbon dioxide rising through the thick, salty paste and bursting on the surface. It is the heartbeat of the brewery. A quirky fringe tidbit, traditional earthenware jars, often called ongi in Korea or kame in Japan, are technically microporous. This means that while they hold liquid in, they allow air to pass through the walls of the clay on a microscopic level. The jar itself breathes. Modern industrial soy sauce is made in stainless steel tanks that are airtight and sterile, requiring artificial temperature control. But these old clay jars regulate their own temperature through evaporation, sweating slightly in the summer heat to keep the ferment cool. The jar is essentially a primitive air conditioning unit made of mud. You continue your walk. The smell in the air is complex. It isn't a sharp, salty smell like the ocean. It is deeper. It smells like roasted nuts, like dark caramel, like dried mushrooms, and like damp earth after rain. It is a savory smell, the smell of umami. It is a heavy scent that seems to coat the back of your throat, triggering a phantom sense of hunger that isn't quite hunger, but rather a desire for something substantial. The sun is high overhead. The light reflects off the rounded shoulders of the jars, creating hundreds of little white highlights that stretch away into the distance. It is dazzling. You notice that each jar has a lid. Some are heavy clay domes, matching the body of the vessel. Others are covered with conical hats made of woven straw or bamboo. These hats sit at a jaunty angle, protecting the contents from rain, while allowing the heat to circulate. There is a profound sense of permanence here. Some of these jars might be 50 years old. Some might be 100. They have sat in this exact spot, under this exact sun, while empires rose and fell, while wars were fought, while technology changed the world outside the walls. Here, nothing changes. The recipe is the same. The weight is the same. You find a wooden bench near the wall of the main storehouse. You sit down. The wood is weathered and smooth. You watch the heat haze shimmer above the tops of the jars. The stillness is not empty. It is active. You realize that inside every single one of those hundreds of jars, a microscopic war is waging. Enzymes are breaking down proteins. Yeasts are consuming sugars. Complex molecules are being snipped apart and reassembled into flavor compounds that didn't exist before. It is a hive of activity, but to the human eye, it looks like absolutely nothing is happening. This is the beauty of the brewery. It demands that you surrender your need for visual progress. You cannot watch soy sauce happen. You can only wait for it. You close your eyes for a moment, letting the warmth of the sun press against your eyelids. You listen to the wind rattling the bamboo outside the walls. You listen to the faint bloop of the fermentation. You feel your own internal clock slowing down to match the rhythm of the yard. In the modern world, we measure time in seconds, minutes, and hours. Here, time is measured in summers and winters. A batch started today will not be tasted until next year, or perhaps the year after. The urgency of your day fades away. The emails, the errands, the deadlines, they have no power here. You are just another object in the courtyard, absorbing the sun, waiting for the transformation. You open your eyes and look at the nearest jar again. It sits there, stoic and heavy. It knows something you don't. It knows how to wait. You stand up slowly. You are ready to see how this silence begins. You are ready to see the raw ingredients that will eventually be sealed inside this clay tomb. You turn toward the main building, a low timber structure with smoke drifting lazily from its chimney. The sanctuary of the yard has done its work. You are calm. You are centered. You are ready to enter the steam. You leave the sun-drenched silence of the courtyard and step into the shadow of the preparation shed. As you cross the threshold, the world turns white. You are instantly enveloped in a cloud of steam. It is thick, warm, and humid, curling around you like a heavy blanket. It softens the light filtering in from the windows, diffusing it into a glowing, pearlescent haze. You cannot see the far wall. You can only see the swirling mists. The smell is distinct. It is the earthy, vegetal scent of boiled soybeans. It is a dense, heavy aroma, reminiscent of damp garden soil and cooked chestnuts. It is the smell of raw potential being softened by heat. In the center of the room, looming out of the mist, are massive iron cauldrons. Beneath them, wood fires burn with a low, steady crackle. Snap, hiss, pop, dotting. The water inside the cauldrons is rolling in a slow, vigorous boil, tumbling thousands of small, pale yellow beans over and over. A mainstream historical fact to consider while you watch the steam rise. Soybeans are incredibly nutritious, packed with protein, but in their raw state they are practically inedible to humans. They contain trypsin inhibitors, compounds that block our digestion. For thousands of years, the first step in making miso or soy sauce has always been the boil. The heat destroys the toxins and unravels the tight proteins, making them accessible to the microscopic magic that will come later. You are watching a process of chemical unlocking. You watch a worker approach the cauldron. They move with the practiced efficiency of someone who has done this motion 10,000 times. They lift a massive bamboo sieve, dripping with hot water, and hoist a mound of glistening beans into the air. The steam billows off them in a fresh wave. The beans have changed. They are no longer the hard, rattling pellets that went into the pot. They are swollen, shiny, and soft. If you were to take one between your thumb and forefinger and squeeze, it would yield instantly, mashing into a smooth paste. They have accepted the water. They are ready. But the bean is only half the story. On the other side of the shed, the air is drier. The smell here is entirely different. It is nutty, toasty, and warm. It smells like a bakery in the early morning. Here, broad flat pans are suspended over coals. Inside them, grains of wheat are dancing. You watch as the wheat kernels are roasted. They are being turned constantly with a long wooden paddle. Scrape, swish, scrape, swish. The rhythm is steady and soothing. The wheat is darkening, turning from a pale gold to a deep, rich brown. As it toasts, the starches inside are breaking down, caramelizing, preparing to provide the sweetness that will balance the salt. A quirky fringe tidbit. The primary difference between Japanese shoyu, soy sauce, and Chinese soy sauce is the wheat. Chinese recipes often use 100% soy or very little grain, resulting in a denser, saltier flavor. Japanese brewing introduces a 50-50 ratio of soy to wheat. The roasted wheat provides the sugars that yeast will eventually eat to create alcohol and complex aromatics. Without this roasting step, soy sauce would lack that distinctive floral bouquet that wafts up when you open a bottle. The roasted wheat is taken off the fire. It is poured into a stone grinder. Grind, crunch, grind. It is crushed, not into a fine flour, but into a coarse meal, jagged and broken. This surface area is crucial. It gives the mold a place to anchor. Now, the marriage begins. The steaming soft soybeans are spread out on a vast flat wooden table to cool. The crushed, roasted wheat is scattered over them like golden snow. You watch the worker mixing them together with their hands. The wet beans and the dry wheat, the soft and the hard, the earthy and the sweet. They are tumbled together until they are inseparable, a speckled mound of warm, nutrient-rich food waiting for a guest. The steam in the room is beginning to settle. The beans are cooling. The temperature must be perfect, warm to the touch, like human skin, but not hot. If it is too hot, the guest will die. If it is too cold, the guest will not wake up. The mixture is scooped into shallow wooden trays. These trays are stacked, one by one, into a tall tower. The preparation is done. The ingredients are cooked. Now, they must be brought to life. You follow the trays as they are carried out of the steam room and down a quiet corridor to a special chamber. This is the muro, the Koji room. The door closes behind you, sealing out the draft. The air in here is still and incredibly warm. It feels like a tropical greenhouse, humid and close. The walls are lined with cedar wood, which absorbs and releases moisture, breathing along with the room. The trays are slid onto racks that line the walls from floor to ceiling. You are standing in a nursery. You watch as the master brewer enters. In his hand, he holds a small bamboo shaker filled with a fine dark green powder. This is the tame Koji, the seed mold. It is the most precious substance in the brewery. With a flick of the wrist, he scatters the powder over the trays. It hangs in the air for a moment, a barely visible green mist, before settling gently onto the bed of soybeans and wheat. It looks like nothing has happened. The powder disappears into the crevices of the grain, but a fuse has been lit. You sit down on a small stool in the corner of the warm room to watch the bloom. But this is not a spectator sport for the impatient. This is a drama that unfolds over 3 long days. A mainstream historical fact. The mold being used here is Aspergillus oryzae, known in Japan as the national fungus. It is the biological engine behind soy sauce, miso, sake, and rice vinegar. Without this specific domesticated mold, Japanese cuisine as we know it would simply not exist. It produces powerful enzymes that can disassemble proteins and starches with terrifying efficiency, turning them into sugars and amino acids. It is a microscopic chef that pre-digests the food for the fermentation tank. Time passes in the dark, warm room. For the first 12 hours, there is silence. The spores are waking up. They are sending out microscopic feelers, tasting the roasted wheat, finding the moisture in the soybeans. By the 24th hour, if you look closely, very closely, you can see a change. The surface of the beans is losing its gloss. It is becoming matte. A faint white haze is beginning to form, like the frost on a window pane. This is the mycelium. The roots of the mold are diving deep into the beans. By the 36th hour, the room feels different. It is hotter. The trays are generating their own heat now. The biological activity is so intense that the mold is running a fever. The brewer comes in, not to add heat, but to release it. He stirs the trays, breaking up the clumps, letting the air circulate. Rustle, rustle, rustle. He treats the grain with the tenderness of a parent checking a sleeping child, a quirky fringe tidbit. In the old days, Koji making was a guarded guild secret. The Moyashia, starters merchants, were the only ones who knew how to harvest and purify the spores. They sold the green powder to the breweries. The brewers didn't fully understand the biology. They just knew that if they sprinkled the green dust, the white fuzz would grow. If they didn't, the batch would rot. It was considered a kind of magic, a blessing from the spirits of the grain. By the 48th hour, the transformation is complete. You lean over one of the trays. The soybeans and wheat are gone. They've been completely swallowed by a thick, luxuriant coat of pure white fur. It looks like a fresh snowfall. It looks like white velvet. It is beautiful. Each individual bean is encased in the mycelium, bound together into a single living block. The smell in the room has changed completely. The earthy bean smell is gone. The room now smells intensely sweet, like chestnuts glazed in syrup, with a hint of mushroom and a faint, pleasant mustiness, like the pages of a very old book. This is Koji. It is the catalyst. It is alive, hungry, and powerful. The brewer runs his hand through the white fluff. It breaks apart easily, light and buoyant. He nods. The bloom is perfect. The mold has done its work. It has created the enzymes needed to unlock the flavor. But the mold's time is over. Its job was to prepare the ingredients. Now, it must be stopped before it consumes everything. The trays are pulled from the warm racks. The white, fuzzy blocks are carried back out into the bright, harsh sunlight of the courtyard. The nursery phase is finished. The Koji is about to meet its final destination, the salt water. The deep sleep is about to begin. You are back in the courtyard. The sun is slightly lower now, casting long, soft shadows across the packed earth. The rows of earthenware jars are waiting. They are empty, their mouths gaping open to the sky, hungry for the harvest. You watch as the workers carry the wooden trays of Koji, the white, fuzzy blocks of soybeans and wheat, out to the jars. They tilt the trays. Tumble. Hush. The Koji breaks apart as it falls, crumbling into the belly of the jar. It piles up in a soft white mound against the dark ceramic walls. It looks like snow settling on the bottom of a deep well, but the Koji cannot ferment alone. If left like this, it would simply dry out or rot. It needs a medium. It needs the ocean. A worker approaches with heavy wooden buckets. They are filled with brine, shiomizu. This is not just salty water. It is a solution saturated to the breaking point. It is cold, clear, and deadly to almost all life forms. A mainstream historical fact to consider as the water is poured. The salt concentration in traditional soy sauce brewing is incredibly high, usually around 16 to 18%. This is the gatekeeper. This salinity creates a hostile environment where spoilage bacteria, the ones that make food rot and smell bad, cannot survive. They die instantly upon contact. But the magic of soy sauce relies on halophilic, salt-loving, lactic acid bacteria and yeasts. These microscopic survivors thrive in the brine, slowly doing the work of fermentation, while the salt protects them from invaders. The salt is the castle wall. The yeast is the citizenry safe inside. The worker lifts the bucket. Splosh. The brine hits the dry Koji. The white dust puffs up for a second, then dissolves. The dry, fuzzy grains drink the water greedily. The mixture swirls, turning from white to a pale, murky beige. This mixture now has a name. It is called moromi, the mash. The worker picks up a long bamboo pole with a wooden paddle at the end, the kai. He lowers it into the jar. Swoosh. Gurgle. Plop pot. He stirs the mash. He mixes the solid and the liquid until they are one suspension. It looks like a thick, bubbling oatmeal. It doesn't look like soy sauce yet. It looks raw, pale, and unrefined. A quirky fringe tidbit. In the days before hydrometers and scientific instruments, brewers had a very low-tech way to check if the brine was salty enough. They would take a fresh egg, or sometimes a single grain of uncooked rice, and drop it into the water. If the egg sank, the water was too fresh. If it floated too high, it was too salty. If it bobbed just below the surface, exposing a patch of shell the size of a coin, the salinity was perfect. It was precision engineering tailored to the buoyancy of a chicken egg. The stirring stops. The paddle is removed, dripping with the pale mash. Now comes the sealing. The worker lifts a heavy lid, either a wooden disc or a matching clay dome, and places it over the mouth of the jar. Clunk. The sound is final. The light is shut out. The moromi is left in the dark. This is the beginning of the long sleep, but it is not a passive sleep. Inside that dark, salty environment, the enzymes created by the mold in the warm room are waking up. They begin to attack the proteins of the soybeans. They start snipping the long molecular chains into smaller, simpler pieces, amino acids. One of these amino acids is glutamic acid. You know it by its taste, umami, the savory, mouth-watering richness that defines the sauce. Right now, in the dark, the chemistry of deliciousness is beginning to unfold, molecule by molecule. You walk down the row listening. The jars are silent now. The lids are on. The courtyard feels like a dormitory after lights out. The frantic activity of the Koji room is over. The violent heat of the steam room is over. Now, there is only the patience of the clay. You place your hand on the side of the sealed jar. It is cool. You can imagine the mash inside, settling, dissolving, beginning its year-long journey. You feel a sense of calm protection. The ingredients are safe. They are held in the earth, protected by the salt, hidden from the sun. Time begins to speed up. We are no longer watching minutes. We are watching seasons. Imagine the courtyard shifting around you. The fresh green of the bamboo leaves deepens to a dark emerald as spring turns into summer. The sun beats down on the clay jars. The earthenware heats up. Inside the dark bellies of the vessels, the moromi wakes up. The heat wakes the yeast. If you were to lift the lid now, in the height of August, you would see the mash is alive. Bloop, blip, bubble, Gas is rising to the surface. The mash is churning itself. It is boiling without fire. The color is changing too. It is no longer pale beige. It has deepened to a light tan, then a soft brown. The smell drifting from under the lids is no longer just salty. It is fruity. It smells of alcohol, of esters, of flowers. The yeast is turning sugar into complex aromas. The brewer returns. He walks the rows in the heat, sweat on his brow. He holds the car paddle. He lifts the lid. Creak. I am right here, sir. He plunges the paddle in. He stirs. Slop. Swish. Thud. He is not just mixing. He is feeding the yeast. He is dragging oxygen down from the surface into the depths, invigorating the fermentation. He stirs one jar, then the next, then the next. The rhythm of the paddle against the clay is the metronome of the summer. Click-clack, swish. It is a sound that has echoed in this courtyard for centuries. Then, the air turns crisp. The bamboo leaves turn yellow and brown. Autumn arrives. The fermentation slows down. The wild bubbling ceases. The yeast, exhausted from its summer party, settles to the bottom. The mash is now quiet again, but a different chemistry takes over. This is the time of the Maillard reaction, the slow browning. The amino acids and the sugars are reacting with each other, darker and deeper. A mainstream historical fact, we usually think of the Maillard reaction, browning, as something that happens quickly with high heat, like searing a steak or toasting bread. But given enough time, this reaction happens at room temperature. The deep, reddish-black color of soy sauce doesn't come from dye. It comes from the slow, cold burning of proteins and sugars over the course of a year. It is the color of time itself. Winter falls. Snow dusts the tops of the clay jars, giving them white hats. The courtyard is silent and cold. Inside the jars, the moromi is mature. It has spent a full year cycling through the temperatures. It has been broken down, fermented, and aged. It is no longer a mash of beans and wheat. It is a thick, dark sludge, rich with the history of the year. The brewer returns. It is time for the harvest. He ladles the thick, dark mash into cloth bags. These bags are stacked inside a wooden box or hung from a beam. And now, the final patience. There's no squeezing. There is no hydraulic press. There's only gravity. You watch the bottom of the cloth bag. The fabric darkens, soaking through with the liquid. A bead forms at the lowest point. It swells. It grows heavy. It hangs for a second, catching the light like a dark garnet gemstone. Drip. Dot. It falls into the ceramic bowl below. Plink. Pow bite. Then, silence. Drip. Plinkite. This is the first run. It is the essence of the jar. It is clear, dark, glossy, and incredibly aromatic. It is the memory of the soybeans, the ghost of the roasted wheat, the work of the mold, and the heat of the summer sun, all distilled into a single liquid form. A quirky fringe tidbit. This liquid, known as Koji, raw soy sauce, is alive. It contains active enzymes and yeast. Most commercial soy sauce is pasteurized, heated, to stop this activity so it can sit on a supermarket shelf forever. But in the traditional brewery, this raw sauce is prized for its complexity. It is vibrant and changing. However, because it is raw, if you left a bottle of it on your counter, it might actually bubble over or change flavor as it continues to ferment. It is a condiment that requires a relationship. You watch the bowl fill up, drop by drop. The surface of the liquid is a perfect mirror, black and still. It reflects the sky above, the gray winter clouds, the passing birds. The journey is complete. The hard, inedible bean has become the savory spirit of the cuisine. The process took a year, but standing here, watching the slow drip, you realize that rushing it would have been a crime. You take a deep breath. The air smells of the finished sauce, savory, Sweet, deep, and earthy. It is a comforting smell. It is the smell of a home-cooked meal waiting for you. Wind down. You step back from the pressing area. The light in the courtyard is fading now. The sun is set behind the high stone walls. The jars are becoming silhouettes, dark shapes against the twilight sky. The brewery is going to sleep. The workers have gone home. The fires in the steam room are out. The bamboo is still. You walk back toward the wooden gate. Your footsteps on the packed earth are the only sound. Crunch, crunch, crunch. You push through the indigo curtain and step out of the courtyard. You leave the jars to their silence. They will be there tomorrow. They will be there next year. They do not need you to watch them. They are content to wait. Imagine yourself carrying that sense of patience with you. You are like the heavy clay jar. You are grounded. You are still. You are full of quiet potential. You lie down in the dark. You pull the covers up. You let the heaviness of the clay settle into your limbs. You let the warmth of the summer sun linger in your bones. You listen to the rhythm of the drip in your mind. Drip, plink, drip, plink. Slow, steady, eternal. The fermentation is finished. The work is done. The lid is sealed. Drift into the darkness of the jar. Drift into the long, quiet sleep. You are safe. You are still. You are asleep. End of script. Doc. Sweet dreams.